Hello everybody and welcome to this TV Hub Official 1 with my third installment in the Red Dwarf review series, and this time we're going to do the Balance of Power. This one was a bit of background here. The original air date was the 29th of February 1988 and it was directed by Ed Bye, written by Rob Grant and Doug Naylor. The story revolves around Lister's desire to bring his own one true love, Christine Kochanski, back as a hologram. The story was written for pure sitcom at the request from the BBC, who didn't want the show to be too heavy on science fiction elements. This episode begins with the same SOS distress call from Holly, with a little different gag at the end. In the drive room, Rimmer is getting Lister to check the ship's supplies for the past 4 hours. Being Lister's superior, he can do what he wants and decides what happens on the ship. Lister wants to have a fun and party, while Rimmer is taking none of it. Lister wants to have laughs and relax while they return to Earth like he plans to do, but Rimmer is thinking exactly opposite. Rimmer makes fun of him for this, as this is not the greatest of plans. Rimmer is very superior in this episode and is in control of giving Lister cigarettes for each day. He obeys him. Rimmer is taking great enjoyment of the power that he is given, and we will see how this affects through this episode. Next, Lister goes to his quarters, asking Holly why he brought Rimmer back. Holly tells him that he was the one person to keep him sane, and that his friends would make him go insane. There is a cheap toilet gag which follows, and Holly explains that, in all, Rimmer was the person that Lister shared the most words with. Over 3 million in all. Or around a few millions. In the next scene, Lister goes into the disco area, where we get a flashback to him drinking with his friends, having fun, while Rimmer is panicking because he cannot find his revision timetable, and we get a scene of Kochanski with her friend as Lister and his friends view on. His friends think that he will never get Kochanski, but Lister is pretending that he does not like Kochanski. Rimmer tells them that he needs his revision timetable, and that Lister tells him that he's lost it because Rimmer has his exam the following day and is working for 7 weeks on the timetable while avoiding the actual studying, which shows a lot about his character. In the corridor, Kat is now walking, looking at himself constantly with a trolley of cigarettes, which he calls shiny things, and this shows another materialistic part of him. Rimmer comes along and tells him that he shouldn't be having them and he should bring them back. We get a funny scene where Rimmer tells him that he can have all the fish he wants, with Kat saying 5 fish, and then Rimmer telling him that he'll give him 6 fish if he puts the shiny things back, away from where Lister can get them. Later, Rimmer walks in on Lister, who is listening to Rastabilly Skank while with his guitar in his hand, pretending he's playing the music. Rimmer is annoyed by this and thinks that it will cause health warnings with Lister, and is very irritated by this. In their beds, Lister thinks back about Kochanski with Rimmer, and Rimmer didn't like her at all. Now Lister wants to bring back Kochanski as he misses her greatly, but cannot get Rimmer to agree. Lister is still crazy about Kochanski, and as Rimmer is higher in command, he says that he is the top of the pecking order and not let this happen. Lister wants to put Rimmer offline so he can have Kochanski, but since he can't do this, he wants to become Rimmer's superior by passing an exam, and this is where the plot sort of picks up. The next day, when Rimmer wakes up late, he is annoyed that Lister did not wake him up because he is a heavy sleeper and he did not set his alarm. Holly gives him the wrong arm as he's corrupted his memory disk, so he has Peterson's arm. And in another scene, we get Kat, who has a funny fish scene, which is quite famous. Rimmer arrives and is angry at Kat and Holly, as he thinks they are really annoying and he's trying to find Lister and is determined. We get a finger gag where Peterson's arm has a mind of its own and attacks Rimmer. As Rimmer looks for Lister, he goes into the cinema where the two Scudders are watching a movie. Also, Rimmer is angry at them for not working. In another scene, Lister is revising for exam while Rimmer tells him he will never make it, thinking he was doing the engineering exam, while Lister is planning to become Rimmer's superior by becoming a chef, which outstands Rimmer, his superior at the moment, and Lister also taking learning drugs from Rimmer, which annoys Rimmer a lot. Rimmer thinks he won't pass while Lister thinks he will. In their quarters, Kat is lying in bed with too many fish in his stomach and is feeling sick, while Rimmer is with the Scudders, revising on engineering stuff. Lister has made a cake in revising for his chef exam, and Rimmer now argue over the exams for a while at the bunks. Rimmer believes that they had fun times together in the past, but this was just him making fun of Lister. But Lister does not believe in this at all. Rimmer is angry at Lister, who gets his own back on Rimmer. Forward in time, the exams are taking place, and Lister is having a very laid-back approach to it all. After still refusing to give Lister Kochanski, Lister begins the chef's exam. In the middle, Kochanski comes back and tells him that he doesn't have to continue the chef's exam, and that Lister is not Kochanski's type. Lister soon figures out that this is Rimmer in Kochanski's body and is disgusted at this, and Rimmer turns back into himself, into his own body, while asking Holly to do so. We now get another joke here with Kochanski's body, and at the end, in another scene, Lister collects his results, with Rimmer waiting over him to see how he did. Lister tells him, as he walks away, "How did you do?" Rimmer asks. Lister replies, "How did I do, Mr. Lister, sir?" And we roll to the credits once more. Considered to be one of the weakest in the series, and actually being the weakest in the series, this episode possessed a different approach than the two previous, with completely joke-orientated reviews, and a bit more of a character approach as well. A lot of character development goes primarily from Lister, who starts off in the episode hopeless and lost, being nostalgic for the past and for Christine Kochanski. Although this yearn continues through the episode, we get to know that Lister has starting to become a proper person and actually aim for something by taking part in the chef's exam, and with his passion to be superior to Rimmer. Rimmer, on the other hand, is trying his best to stay superior, and in his way of having this conflict with Lister, also argues with all the other characters, Holly, Kat, and the Scudders, who appear in this episode, which shows a very sort of angry Rimmer, and series 1 and 2 very primitive character Rimmer, who has no love of any of the characters, apart from some of the bunk scenes where the two have a sort of agreement on a few things. Kat in this episode is quite like the Kat in the previous two episodes, with jokes and fun, and is another primitive version of Kat who we get in series 1 and 2. He likes his materials, as always, and is a happy-go-lucky style of person. Kat is still only appearing on a few occasions, and pops up and in and out of the place, being quite a solitary figure in these first few episodes. In the flashbacks, we get to see Lister with his friends, and how they interact together, and how he pretty much has no chance of actually getting Kochanski in real life, even though he's feeling not too confident about ever approaching her. It is interesting in this episode how the directors planned to make the cast of the spaceship that used to be there but now died a regular part in flashbacks and things like that. In this episode, we get a middle-of-the-road comedy with funny moments, and basically being formed as a more sitcom version, which we will see not becoming a regular, as this will change in the future when we're going to get more adventure orientated. This episode, well, probably not as good as Future Echoes, definitely not. Probably being around the same level as the end, but slightly less more to go on. The main part of the story was Lister trying to get Kochanski back, which they hoped would be a main part of the story in the future. But we will be sure that this might not be what it seems. and although it seems like a good premise, it doesn't work out completely like it should. For me, this episode posed as one that, although enjoyable to watch, does not stand up on multiple viewings, but can still be fun to watch here and again. Not being a must-watch, but being one to see Series 1 and 2 style characters being formed in the episode. And also giving a notice on my future reviews. Red Dwarf reviews probably maybe another few over this week, and WWE reviews coming as well. So stay tuned for those. And on Balance of Power, I'm going to give Balance of Power a nice and fair. So 6.5 is my one for this one. Worse than the end, but enjoyable watch and just fun to see how the characters interact. That's it all for me this time on TV Hub Official 1, and I'll see you next time for Waiting for God. That's it, Waiting for God.